Dear friends, during the past days, we have received a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails where you were telling us that this year you're not going to be able to come to visit the winery because of the circumstances that we're living. But we don't want you to miss anything. This is why we came up with the idea of making this virtual visit so you can learn about the history and the legacy of this family. So today, I'm going to be your guide. Come with me. I always like to start my visits in this little corner. This is a corner dedicated to Cuba. And you may think, what does this relate with wine production here in Spain? Well, although we were wine growers in the 16th century, we did not put the name of our wines until 1870. And this was thanks to a young man called Miquel Torres. He was born in the Torres family. But at the beginning, he did not want to be a winemaker. He wanted to see the world. That's why he decided to embark on a boat that would take him to Cuba. And in Cuba, he was working, he worked very, very hard for many years until he got enough money to buy a small share of this boat, of the Bergantin Eva. This was a boat that would allow him to buy wine in Barcelona and to ship this wine into the city of La Habana. And well, this is how the business started. After many, many years of doing that, he got tired of all these trips, and then he met his brother Miquel Torres. He was still in Vilafranca del Penedès, and then they decided to join forces and they started the winery. And this was on 1870, long time ago. A lot of people that come to the Torres winery fall in love with this little car. This is a Renault 4x4 and used to be the car of my grandfather. He used this car to go around, to visit restaurants, to sell wine, but also to go through the paths of the Penedès and around Catalonia in order to find vine growers that would sell him the grapes so that he could make wine. And I can tell you, this is a great car. It still works after many years. Here in the winery, we have a great collection of old pictures that can take you through the history of Torres. Probably, and talking about difficult times, the most dramatic picture that we have is this one of our winery, totally destroyed in 1939 during the Spanish Civil War. Some airplanes were trying to bomb the train station that was very close to our winery, but the bombs failed to go to a train station and they all went to our winery. So everything was destroyed, but my grandfather was brave enough to ask some money to the bank and to continue again rebuilding the winery and making wine again. From all the utensils that were used in the past, both in the vineyard and in the winery, maybe the one that I like the most is this massive press from the 18th century. This press was moved by animals that they were moving that vertical screw on one side of the press. This big piece of wood was moving and was pressing both grapes, or could press also olives. And then the juice was filtered through these ropes to get in this vase. We have this great collection of ancient amphoras from the Roman times. To me, each of these pieces proves the history of wine in the Mediterranean. On those times, these amphoras were filled with Spanish wine from Tarragona, from the Penedès, and they were transported through the sea to Rome. On those times, it was very fashionable to drink imported wine. This is the most ancient piece that we have in the Torres family. It's a cratera from the 4th century before Christ. And in those times, they used to mix the wine with salt water from the Mediterranean, but also with some honey, with some spices. And I can tell you that probably those wines did not have a great taste. But even on those times, they were already enjoying wine. It is very interesting to understand the history of our wines through the labels. Spanish wines were not very well known until the Second World War. During the Second World War, France was invaded, and so they could not export their wine. So there was a great demand for wine around the world. And my grandfather was smart enough to go and to travel a lot and to showcase his own wines. I love these old labels. There was a lot of work with the typography, with the papers, and they really show character and personality. Well, the part that I like the most in the visit is the walk around the vineyards of Massa Plana. These vineyards were planted in the year 64, 65, and it's very ancient Cabernet Sauvignon with very deep roots now. It's a great vineyard, and every single one of these vines, of these very old vines, to me is like a sculpture. So to me, it's like walking in a museum, but outside. It's something very unique and very precious. For any great wine, the most important thing is to have a great vineyard. And that means understanding the soils, understanding the climate, the varieties that you're going to plant, the people that is going to take care of this vineyard, and the environment in general. I'm a great defender of promoting the biodiversity in the vineyards. Here, for example, in Massa Plana, this is an organic vineyard, 100% certified. And now I'm close to this insectary where we have insects that help to promote the balance and to not use chemicals in the vineyard. But we also have bees to help the pollination. We have a lot of birds also, sheep that they produce the compost that we're going to use afterwards in the vineyard. Anyway, it's very important to keep this balance. I always feel that when a vineyard is balanced is when really expresses the essence, when expresses with words through wine the message that wants to give. To understand a wine like Massa Plana, it's very important to understand that this wine comes from a single vineyard. It's a single vineyard of 29 hectares, and inside that vineyard we can find different kind of parcels with a slightly different soil, sometimes with more gravel, sometimes with more clay, sometimes more calcareous. When it comes to harvest time, we harvest it in a different moment, just when that parcel, when those grapes are perfectly ripe. And then the grapes come here. We select them by hand, and then after a gentle crush, we put them in these different vats. The important thing is that nature gives us always like an excellent gift, that is these precious grapes. So the key thing to remember always is that the great wines are made in the vineyard. So the most important thing is not to make mistakes here and just let the wine express by itself. Now we are in the aging wine cellar for the single vineyard wines, and it's a very unique place. There's a lot of silence, it's very cold, the right temperature to age our wines. Here the wine is going to go through a process of aging, of micro-oxidation, of integration with this wood that will make the wine more elegant and to have more finesse. It feels special because it's a place where we see the work of the last 2 or sometimes 3 years waiting here, and it's very unique, it's very special to us. So we come to the last part of the visit where we open bottles of wine and we enjoy them. So you can find these wines that I selected in many online wine stores. So here's my selection. Massa Plana from the Penedès, a wine to understand the Torres family, very important, great wine. Then from Conca de Barberà, our Grans Muralles, made with 5 different varieties: Garnacha, Carinyena, Monastrell, Garró and Querol, Catalan and ancestral varieties. Very Mediterranean wine, great wine. A wine that I drink a lot, Purgatori from Costers de Segre, Garnacha, Carinyena and a little bit of Syrah. A great wine with a lot of fruit that I enjoy very much. And this is the wine that I'm drinking right now, Mas de la Rosa from the Priorat, from a single vineyard of 1.9 hectares. Very heroic vineyards in slopes and with a slate soil. It's a magical place, and this really reflects into the wine. Well, I hope that you enjoyed today this visit. I hope that at home you can open a lot of bottles of wine. This is time to drink wine, it's time to celebrate, and to celebrate every single day. Salud!